Hi my friends, Dean here with Escape to Gaming. I want to do a special top 25 favorite games of the last 3 generations of consoles, including the new, Xbox One and PlayStation 4 consoles. So I'm going to be covering PS1 games, PS2 games, original Xbox games, Xbox 360 games, PlayStation 3 games, and Xbox One and PlayStation 4 games. Now, I'm trying to just do games I have in my collection. It'd be really fun to go back and, what are my top favorite arcade games, and I'll do one of those eventually. And the same thing with the Sega Genesis and Super NES and Atari 2600. But I want to, in Commodore 64, but I want to stay focused on just games I have in my collection right now. And the criteria for them basically is not just games that were, epic games, milestone games at that time, but games that kind of have stood the test of time, that even today, as kind of a retro collector and gamer, I can go back and still have a great time with. I mean, there's many games like the game Myst for the original Xbox. It's kind of the cat's out of the bag once you play it the first time. As memorable and as wonderful as that experience was, it's hard to go back and to play some of those games again because you already kind of know, exactly what the story is and the secret is. So I try to think of games that have stood the test of time, games that you can easily see yourself playing again. I'm sure that this list will be completely different from your list of the same generations. But anyway, going back and covering the last 3 generations of consoles, I'm going to start with the oldest one, the PlayStation 1, and work my way forward. And believe me, this was a tough list to narrow down, so I got a lot, so I got to get on and get going. I tried to do a top 20, and I just couldn't do it, to be honest with you. So you know what? I'll just do a hell with it. I'll do a top 25, so here it is. And I just mentioned this recently in one of my other videos. One of the first games I bought for the PlayStation 1 was Return Fire. Now, Mark Bussler of Classic Game Room generously sent this back to me because I had no idea what it was worth. Now, in fact, when I looked on eBay, there was one of these in the original tall box for $350. And a lot of the other copies are still very expensive, $100 and up, easy. So this was in a pricey game. Mark was generous enough to send it back to me, thank God. I love Return Fire. In fact, the only way you can get it that I know of is in the tall box. I made my own. I cut this label down from the little manual inside and made my own jewel case for it. But I love this game to death. It's a wonderful little kind of an isometric top-down strategy game where you have little tanks and jeeps and helicopters and these little kind of these armored personnel carriers. And you try to capture the flag, and you start off progressively on smaller islands, and then each level the islands get bigger and bigger where there's potentially more flags, and there's little fortresses around where the flag could be, so you're not really sure. There may be 3 or 4 areas, and each one is guarded by these little turrets and walls and trees and everything, so you have to kind of be very careful because you only have so many helicopters to go out exploring with and tanks and whatever, so you have to make the most of your resources. But man, I've had so much fun with this game. I've played it even recently and cannot believe how addictive the gameplay is. I mean, it's one of those ones you have to have supreme patience, and it's kind of awkward with those old tank controls on the original PlayStation 1 controller. It wasn't really set up for the analog controls, but a wonderful game, highly recommended, is Return Fire. Not only did it look great, but it had this wonderful licensed classical music, Wagner themes, and the same music that you had in Apocalypse Now and all that. It's wonderful. It's just, I can't tell you the excitement that I would get. Every time you die, you'd have this laughing skull and crossbones that would laugh in your face. It's a wonderful game, very addictive, very cool. It was also on the Panasonic 3DO. So when I was going to buy the 3DO, at one time, this was one of the first games I'm going to get, and if I buy another 3DO, I'll probably try to find this game for that as well. But anyway, that's my first one for the PlayStation. Now, they're not in any particular order as far as which ones are my 25th favorite and which is my #1 favorite, but I'll count them down just in categories, just within an overall top 25 greatest hits. The wonderful Road Rash, which Mark Bussler actually just recently reviewed my donated copy that I sent him, so I went out and bought myself another one. Mint copy of the wonderful game Road Rash. I love this game to death. Many of you know how wonderful it is too. I also like the Road Rash 3D on the PS1, but this one has stood the test of time. I've put more time into this than probably any other game. I love it to death. You can even go in and pick your favorite levels of the 5 different levels. Level 4 and 5 have nitrous on the bikes. And how the game was made was each level, the track got longer and longer. They'd add more miles onto the track, and each of those segments would get more difficult. So that's how you advance through the game. You had an overall story mode, or you could just take your time and pick your favorite level and track and all that. But highly addictive. I did some gameplay video of this a while back. I just love this to death. I can't wait to play this some more, in fact. Wonderful Road Rash. The next favorite PlayStation 1 game, which a lot of people already know this, is Duke Nukem Time to Kill. Many people really, when they think of Duke Nukem, they think of, Duke Nukem 3D is the one that's really stood the test of time. And then the infamous Duke Nukem Forever, which a lot of people don't like, which I also like, by the way. But something about the platforming in this, the music, the setting, going back in time, going forward into the future, really challenging platforming and levels. Some of them was really tough. The timing had to be right on the money. Tough. Mark Bussler was going to review this game recently that I donated, and he said, dude, I couldn't even beat the game. He said, I kept losing my lives, because you only have like 3 lives, and it has to last you throughout the whole length of the game. So if you're in the second to the last level and you use your last life up, that's it. The game over, you have to start all the way from back from the beginning, and it's a long game. So he has sent me an email, apologizing. I said, dude, I understand the game is tough as nails. I understand all about it. Don't worry about it. So I don't know if I'll see Mark review this one or not, but a wonderful game. Highly recommend Duke Nukem Time to Kill. You can probably get it relatively cheap, too. It's a lot of fun. Getting into the PlayStation 2 games and the original Xbox, I'll start off with my favorite, and I have this for the Xbox as well, and on PC, but is Return to Castle Wolfenstein Operation Resurrection for the PlayStation 2. Now, this version was different from the Tides of War original Xbox version because it had additional scenes and cut scenes in it and levels where you're down in Egypt, down in these tombs with like kind of a Raiders of the Lost Ark, platforming and puzzles and zombies and all that. It's really epic. This is just a magical game. I cannot rave enough about this. The PC version looks amazing, which I have on my PC as well off Steam. But I love this particular version of it. It looks a little bit better on the Xbox, original Xbox, but I like the additional, they actually improved the color on the PlayStation 2 version. And again, additional levels and cutscenes that make it special. Highly recommend this. A lot of my friends know this is one of my top favorite games. This would definitely be in the top 10 of all time, is Operation Resurrection, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, a wonderful corridor shooter by id Software. Absolutely amazing. I love this game. The next one is Roadkill for the PlayStation 2. Now, many people, and I love Twisted Metal Black, and I sat there for like 30 minutes. God, is this one I like better than Black? I don't know. I love Twisted Metal Black, and I also have it downloaded in my PlayStation 3 as well. But something is very unique and strange about Roadkill. I also have this and just bought it recently. I haven't even tried it yet. For the, where the hell is it? Oh, here it is. I didn't even know they had it for the original Xbox as well. But Roadkill is a fantastic game. These wonderful, cars, kind of like the Road Warrior, where there's a guy in the back with a turret. And there's 3 unique maps, kind of like, Vice City or the original Grand Theft Auto games, open world areas where you can do the missions and explore and find hidden collectibles to level up, stuff like that. I love this Roadkill to death. I got a special license plate, which I have on my wall, for pre-ordering it back in October 2003. That's how long it's been since I played this. Highly recommended. Very unusual, kind of campy, vehicle combat game like Twisted Metal, but I've actually had more fun. And this game is tough, too. Some levels are brutally tough. But I just played this recently on the PlayStation 2, and I'm anxious to try it out on the Xbox pretty soon. Highly recommend Roadkill. The next one, this is my favorite PlayStation 2 game, along with the Return to Castle Wolfenstein Operation Resurrection, is Manhunt. Now, I love Manhunt 2 as well. This one has a slight edge on it. I actually prefer it story-wise in the setting over Manhunt 2. But I cannot tell you how much I love this franchise to death. I was just talking with Scott Bailey of the Console Snob last night, via Facebook, about how much I love this. He was doing a series of gameplay videos on this right now. I can go over and check his videos out. I think he's done some live streams, and he uploaded those onto YouTube in 15-minute sections, and they're really entertaining. I've watched the first one. I'm anxious to see more of them. But a wonderful game. It's a strange stealth game. There's nothing else like it. Some people call it a murder simulator, and perhaps it is. But once you understand the overall story and the premise, it actually is a story you can get into. I couldn't wait to play it. I bought this the day it came out because it was a Rockstar game. I knew nothing about it. It's a very strange and unusual game. It's very, very dark. Very dark. One of the darkest video games I've ever played. It was very disturbing. The first night I stayed up till 7:30 in the morning playing this and beat the game basically within 24 hours. I couldn't put it down. And since subsequently I've gone back, put it on the hardcore mode, and unlocked the additional 4 secret levels and everything. I still have my PlayStation 2 save with all the levels, thank God. And I also have this for the original Xbox, which it looks and plays even better on the Xbox. You can play it on the Xbox 360, but unfortunately you lose the director's voice in it from Brian Cox. And I also have this on the PlayStation 3 downloaded, and it looks and plays great on the PS3. Manhunt 2 I have for the PlayStation 2 as well, and I also have the PC version uncut of that. But this one stands a test of time. Going back, it's a little awkward with the camera and movement controls, but you'll find it's a very fascinating game. It starts off very slow with just melee weapons. About halfway into the game, they introduce guns, and man, the game really picks up speed, and it becomes very intense when you get the guns, and you work your way towards the end of the game. A massive, epic game, in my opinion, is Manhunt. Getting onto the Xbox, I know I'm not alone with this one. Medal of Honor Frontline is just incredible. I just love this game. Now, I originally had played this on the PlayStation 2, but I wanted to get, the Xbox version of it and replay it again. And I also have a special HD version of this on the PlayStation 3 as well in my hard drive that looks and plays amazing. If you can get it off from the PlayStation Network for the PS3, I would highly recommend getting it. But wonderful game, fantastic music, one of the first really good, gritty, epic World War II games that I got into. Shortly after this, I think I played Call of Duty 2, the Big Red one, and then liked that almost as much as this, but this one takes the cake even to this day for the original Xbox or PlayStation 2. The next one is another game I've been talking to Scott, the console snob, about lately, is the wonderful game Max Payne. And I know many of you love the franchise as much as I do. Now, this was tough. I love the new Max Payne 3, and I also love Max Payne 2, the rise and fall of Max Payne. But there's something unique and very magical and special about the first one. The graphic novel, comic book-like setting, the wonderful music, the dark feel and theme to it, the incredible narration with the wonderful voice work. It was one of those first games where they captured the faces of people and had this wonderful slow motion gimmick that has been used in so many games like Sniper Elite and other games where they've slowed down time to show the the bullets going to the bodies and the bodies doing these wonderful ragdoll physics. But Max Payne is one of those once-in-a-lifetime games where my mouth was hanging open and I was mesmerized with the story. It took me 2 days to get through this originally. In fact, originally I played it on the PlayStation 2, but it looks a little bit better and plays better on the original Xbox. In fact, I also have off my Xbox Live Arcade within my Xbox 360 hard drive both Max Payne 1 and 2, which I'd highly recommend. You can get them dirt cheap off Xbox Live Arcade. Then you can play them with a modern controller. You can capture, via, contemporary capturing equipment and all that. But this still is a highly recommended game. You can get it on PC as well. In fact, I do have it on my PC, in fact. I love this game to death. Something about Max Payne has always stood the test of time. I had the highest affection for it. I love Max Payne 3 too. I was kind of torn between the two of them, but something is just so special about this first one. We won't talk about the movie or anything like that, but I had wonderful memories playing Max Payne 1 and 2 on my fat PlayStation 2 back in the day. So I'd highly recommend that. And Scott, the console snob, is going to be doing a retrospective pretty soon on this, which I'm anxious to see. But highly recommend Max Payne. One of those iconic games. The next one for the original Xbox is Freedom Fighters. This is one of the finest and most unique squad-based tactical shooters I've ever played. I love this game to death. The Soviets take over New York. You go and they capture the Statue of Liberty and the City Hall and police stations and all this, and you're kind of a lowly plumber working with the underground movement, and you have a squad of guys. You slowly, accumulate these guys, and you can command them via these wonderful little tactics of kind of third-person tactics, where you have a whole team of guys, and you can have them defend a position, advance, take this guy, go out and take that guy out in that turret. Meanwhile, these other guys can follow you to another part, do an end round, and try to capture them. It's very unique, very cool, wonderful music, really good graphics. No, it's a little dated now looking back on it, and you can also get it for the original, for the PlayStation 2, and I believe the GameCube as well. But from the makers of Hitman 2, a wonderful game. I really enjoy this. I can't recommend this game enough. This game, to me, still stands the test of time. Once you get into it, it's a lot of fun. And it's challenging, too. It's tough to get all the way to the end of this game. If you're collecting old original Xbox games or PlayStation 2 games, do yourself a favor and get Freedom Fighters. You love it. Now, this is my favorite James Bond movie. Game of all time. I love, GoldenEye Reloaded on the Xbox 360, and 007 Legends are fantastic. And I have quite a few other, Bond games as well. Bloodstone, and I've got 007 Quantum of Solace, which I really enjoy as well as a first-person shooter. But this is a third-person shooter. What's unique about this game, and I mentioned this before, is it has the likeness and voice work of the wonderful Sean Connery, which to me is still my favorite James Bond. And even the likeness of Robert Shaw, who's passed away now, some of the Bond women. It has the wonderful jetpack, wonderful levels, incredible authentic music from the early 60s movie as well. Wonderful set-piece moments from the film. You really gets you worked up. I mean, the levels are great. Wonderful polished menu design, the sound effects, everything is very well thought out. It's a very well-made game by Electronic Arts that I highly recommend. And it has, I'm not real big on multiplayer, but this particular one had a split screen that was one of the most fun split screens I've ever played. Most people think of, something like, GoldenEye, the original one, the N64, as that epic kind of film or a game that you can play, multiplayer with. But for me, it was this game. And I had an Xbox and played this on the Xbox originally. A friend would come over, there's like 4 or 5 levels with the jetpacks, and it's highly fun. You can use either machine guns or rocket launchers, and you're going up and down around buildings and over rooftops and under bridges, and it is so epic. I can't recommend the split screen enough for this game, and the single player campaign is very memorable. It's a good lengthy campaign and a lot of fun. I really have a lot of fun. I even found an original strategy guide for this, but I would recommend 007 From Russia with Love if you want a wonderful James Bond epic adventure. Now, getting into the PlayStation 3, I only have a couple PlayStation 3 games, and the rest of them are games that are on the Xbox 360, but some of them also are on the PS3. This one I've played all the way through on the PS3, and I also bought this again for the Xbox 360. But believe it or not, one of my favorite contemporary modern shooters, even though I love, Rising Sun and Medal of Honor Frontline, I really enjoyed this 2010 Medal of Honor game. If you buy it for the PlayStation 3, you also get Medal of Honor Frontline in HD to download into your PlayStation 3 hard drive. It has an incredible setting, a really good story, characters that you actually empathize for. It's a tough group of special operatives, over in Afghanistan. All hell breaks loose. You lose all control right from the get-go, and you're just trying to survive in these mountains in Afghanistan. It's a great story. You really feel the camaraderie with your dudes and everything. You get all choked up by the end of the game. It's an amazing adventure. You can get this game for the cost of a burrito or a hamburger now. It's ridiculously cheap. I also enjoyed the Medal of Honor Warfighter follow-up, but this particular one had a better story, and it wrapped up nicer by the end of it. The other one's a little bit more convoluted, but the action was just as satisfying. This game was a little buggy for me personally on the PlayStation 3. I'm not sure how it is on the Xbox 360, but I'd highly recommend this. If you like contemporary war shooters with really good graphics and great elevation changes up in the mountains and these mountain passes and tunnels and infrared, night vision stuff, it's just really epic. And then there's some, you're riding quads and other things as well, but a really excellent game for the PlayStation 3, Medal of Honor from 2010. The last game I've got for the PlayStation 3, which I would buy a PS3 just to get this game, is the wonderful Twisted Metal. Now, I love the original Twisted Metal, and this almost made the list. And I've replayed and played the hell out of this with split screen, but I've had even more fun, especially now, and put in maybe even more time playing this new Twisted Metal. And I also love Twisted Metal Black as well, and I have Twisted Metal 2 as well. But something about this one, I actually do not like the story mode and never finished the story mode. But if you go into what's called the challenge mode, you can pick any of the levels that are available in the story mode and pick your loadouts, pick the car, customize the car. You can even pick a co-driver, a co-partner with you, which helps you fight while you're driving. It's insane. And then you can also pick your enemies. And then when there's multiple different challenge ways and ways to play the game. So you can just take on a couple enemies, waves of enemies, an incredible split screen, really good music. I played this online too and actually had fun. It's one of the few games I've played online and had a blast with. But just for the challenge mode alone, I would buy a PS3 just to play this Twisted Metal. I love this game absolutely to death. The graphics are wonderful. It's very, very polished. It's so much fun, and it's challenging as hell. It really is. I had a video up on my thing. I had to take it down because I got a copyright deal because of the music. Unfortunately, I forgot to shut it off. I had some wonderful split screen that I showed of this with my nephew and I playing it. But I highly recommend this Twisted Metal. If you have a PlayStation 3, for the love of God, go out and get it. It really is amazing. Here's my Twisted Metal. I'll put that over there. Now, there's so many shooters. I love first-person shooters, and I know many of you do as well. The Call of Duty series is vast, and I love Call of Duty 2. I love Black Ops, the first one. But my favorite, if I had to pick one, I'd be hard-pressed because I'm kind of a World War II nut, is I really love the World at War. This was a very close tie with Call of Duty number 2. And I just recently played Call of Duty 3, which I mentioned in one of my other rants. But something about this World at War by Treyarch, the game it looks wonderful. I love the way it plays. I love the setting. I love the little intros, the voiceover, all of these really kind of dark and dismal facts about how many people, soldiers died in the war and how gritty it was. But it shows from the perspective of multiple forces, not just the Americans, what it was like, in Russia. I forget some of the other forces that were in it. Now, I've played this all the way through in co-op. I've beaten the game a couple times just in the single-player deal, and I've done, the multiplayer maps as well, but this is a fantastic Call of Duty game. I wish to God they'd return to this and make like a World at War II, a sequel, because I for one, would pay whatever it costs. I love this game, whether you're in trenches with a flamethrower, or the set-piece moments, in the islands of Japan at nighttime with just a gun. I mean, it's amazing, the levels of this. It's just a beautiful game. It's challenging at times, too. A lot of fun. I think the world of World at War in Call of Duty. Now I've already had one Medal of Honor game. I've got one Call of Duty game. I have to include a Battlefield game. Now, for me, I'm not into the multiplayer. I just like the single-player campaigns. There's something about Battlefield Bad Company 2. I love the first one, too. But I've loved this, and I've played this a couple times. I think the world of this is one of my favorite FPS shooters of all time, is this Bad Company 2. Wonderful, destructible environments, incredible weapons. There's nothing that's, frankly, as good as a campaign in this for Battlefield games. And I like Battlefield 3 and 4, which I have on the PlayStation 4, and I've enjoyed them. But something about this one is where I was motivated to play it more than once, and I just love it. It's a very polished game. If I had to choose like 3, FPS games, this probably would be one of them. I think the world of it. Highly recommend Battlefield Bad Company 2. Now, I love id Software, as I mentioned before, with the Return to Castle Wolfenstein. It's an incredible company. A lot of people love them from Doom and Quake as well. This game has taken some flack, but it got relatively good reviews, and that's the game Rage from id Software. I don't know if they ever fixed it for PC. It had many buggy issues on PC from what I understand, and it had a lot of texture pop in on the PlayStation 3 version, but the Xbox 360 version looks and plays amazing. This is the Anarchy Edition, which came with some extra cars and weapons and what have you. And then I also have all the sewer missions downloaded as well, DLC that came with it. This is a fantastic game, a very strange hybrid of like a Road Warrior car combat with the kind of cars, kind of like Twisted Metal, but also an FPS game. And the multiplayer was all about, for whatever reason, you could play it in co-op as an FPS game, or you could play car combat. But I just got it for the single-player campaign. I think the world of this game, it has hundreds of very unique death animations. It's a lot more detailed than you think. id Software spent years developing this. This was in development before Borderlands. A lot of people say, oh, this ripped off Borderlands. This was there first. It just took them forever to finish the damn game. But incredible graphics, a wonderful open world that you can go and explore and do missions in. You have like these little towns that you do like side quests and things with, and then there's side missions as well. And there was even collectibles as well in this, but I just love this game to death. Had so much fun playing it. I'd like to do a review of this someday. One of my absolute favorite games. I think that the shooting, I think it was at like 60 frames a second too, really smooth shooting. The game looks and plays very smooth. You'll notice some texture pop in here and there with it on the Xbox 360, but for the most part, it plays really good, and it looks incredible. Incredible attention to detail. You can see they put a lot of thought. You shoot someone in the shoulder, they react in the shoulder or the leg, they'll keep coming at you. It's very, the AI is smart, and a lot of fun to play this game, but Rage is highly recommended. I love this game to death, Rage. I think the world of it. Another game which is kind of an offshoot, id Software in collaboration with Raven Software did one of my favorite games from 2009, and that's the Wolfenstein game, which is kind of a reboot, but at the same time a sequel to Return to Castle. A really wonderful game that mixes science fiction fantasy with kind of a dark themes of the occult, with a kind of a traditional World War II Call of Duty feel to it. It has a central hub, somewhat of an open world where you can explore these big central hubs and parts of this city, Eisenstadt in Germany. And I did a full review of this, which you can see, but a wonderful game, great graphics, really gory, scary sometimes. There's some real intense parts in this game, and it gets tough near the end. I mean, you really can pull your hair out. Tough boss battles. The AI is kind of a mixed batch, but it's a wonderful game overall. I got kind of mixed reviews. Some people loved it. Well, I met Mark Bussler through his review of this game because he thought the world of it, and I agreed with him. And we talked about it. That's when I reached out to Mark Bussler. It was after he did this review. And we've been good friends ever since. But I think the world of Wolfenstein: The New Order, you get this game dirt cheap. I mean, do yourself a favor and try it out. It's a lot of fun. I gave Steve Benway a PS3 version of this recently, and he liked it. He thought it was a cool game and challenging. Next I have, I'm only going to really have one driving game in this. There's so many, and believe me, it was hard to narrow this down. But my favorite driving game, and many people know this, is the original Forza Horizon. I love the Gran Turismo series on the PlayStation 1. I have Gran Turismo 3 for the PlayStation 2 as well. And I have all of the Xbox versions from the very first Forza up to Forza 4 for the Xbox and Xbox 360. But something about this Forza Horizon 1, and I have the second one too, which I have for the 360. I don't like it quite as much, but I love this very first Forza Horizon. They finally got it right. You can drive behind the dash, or you're going to have a third-person view. You can pick races the way you want, do these races ahead of time, or just drive around and challenge people you bump into on the road. It's a wonderful game. I've got a really high achievement score on this. I can't rave enough about this. If you love racing games and you've never played this, do yourself a favor and play it. You'll have so much fun. It's a beautiful game. Wonderful menus. It looks a lot more fun. I think the first one and the second one. The second one is very sterile looking with the menus and the graphics on screen. But this first one really is exciting and a lot more enthusiasm visually in the game, I think, than even the second one. Forza Horizon, one of my favorite racing games of all time. Another Xbox 360 game, which I just bought this version recently, is Mafia 2. This game is a very magical, special game. I bought it and sat on it for a while before I actually played it initially. But it's a wonderful game. It's very heavy with cutscenes. It takes a while to get through the game. It's like a wonderful, very rich story with very likable characters, absolutely gorgeous rendered cutscenes, and an open world that takes place in two time periods in kind of a fictitious New York City. They take elements from LA and New York and Chicago and put them in one fictitious city, which you can explore. It's a very strange and unique game. I have some scenes from this in one of my intros, but I love Mafia 2. And this one has all the DLC, these extra Joe missions, and these other assassination missions and what have you. And then all the DLC in the way of cars and guns and stuff. But wonderful driving scenes. You can go into some of the places and buy clothes and shop, and collectibles and stuff like that. It's so cool. It has these Playboy magazine collectibles you can find, and it has like real, actual Playboy magazine centerfolds with full nudity and everything that you'll find, and you can save them inside there. It's a unique game. Anyway, I really think the world of this. Those of you that have played it know how special it is. Mafia 2, you can get this game dirt cheap. You'll really be surprised at how special and unique this game is. Give it a try. Another one very similar to that is the wonderful L.A. Noire. Now, I bought this game and all the Season Pass, which included the 5 DLC deals, when it first came out, and sat on it virtually a year before I finally sat down and played it lovingly all the way through, including the DLC. I got a pretty high achievement score on this one too. Wonderful game of police back in like 1949 in Los Angeles, and they captured LA back in the late 40s beautifully. Wonderful, strange way they did this motion capture thing of these investigations where you can interrogate people and you study their faces and little facial tics and what have you, and you guess if they're lying, if they're exaggerating, if they're telling the truth, and you can steer the whole investigation because of the way you ask the questions. Or you could dismiss the people and let them go and later find out that they were guilty or whatever. It's fascinating. A very unique game. Unfortunately, the studio that made it went through some hard times, and it's I don't know if we'll see another one of these or not, but a lot of people know what I'm saying when L.A. Noire is a very unique and special game. This is tough. I also like Red Dead Redemption, but this beat it out for me a little bit over Red Dead, as much as I like Red Dead, just because I love the setting of this and it's so unusual. Kind of like Mafia 2, a very similar period, in with the old cars and just old landmarks around Los Angeles. The way you do the investigations, kind of like a late 40s GTA in a way too. You can drive anywhere you want, do these police radio call missions. Very, very cool. I'd highly recommend L.A. Noire from Rockstar Games. Now, I'm recently playing the wonderful Far Cry 4, which I've got right here. Now, this game, I'm torn between the two. It's either one of these. This one I've played more of mission-wise, so I would recommend this one initially. This one could easily make this top 25 list and edge Far Cry 3 out, because it has a helicopter and a lot of other additional gimmicks that they don't have in Far Cry 3. But if you want an exceptional first-person open-world game with a really smooth shooting and an incredible story, a really great villain and characters, you can't beat Far Cry 3. I need to get back to this. I'm having so much fun presently with Far Cry 4. When I'm done with that, I'm going to jump right into this and finish this, because I'm loving the mechanics and the action that's in Far Cry 4. And I've got about 34 hours in this and just never finished it. I want to go back and see how the story unfolds. I've never seen any spoilers on it, but the story is amazing on this. I just love it. It's in this wonderful tropical island setting, and there's hang gliders, and then later you get a wingsuit. You can fly down via a wingsuit. There's exploration in caves and underground water passages. Beautiful. You can even hunt sharks. There's alligators. All kinds of wildlife on the island. You're just trying to survive. Kind of a rich trust fund kid trying to survive and find your friends. A very intense game, very well done, a real masterpiece. This is also kind of, I had a hard time choosing between this and Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 I also like. It almost made this list, but I think this is even better because you're just up close and personal in that FPS capacity, and the story is far better in this, I think, in my opinion, than Just Cause 2. But anyway, wonderful game. Highly recommend this. And And if you have a new Xbox One or PlayStation 4, for the love of God, get this Far Cry 4. It's incredible. This game could even beat this one out. I'm having so much fun with it. So, another very surprised one. Some of you may be surprised. This actually made my top 25 list. Is XCOM: The Bureau Declassified, which I have here, and this is a special edition of it, which is an extra DLC and some extra levels in it. I think you can get it on PC and the PlayStation 3 as well. This is a really surprise hit. I took a chance in this. I didn't know whether I'd like it or not. It takes place in 1962, kind of like the X-Files, where there's like a secret FBI organization that deals with UFOs and alien phenomena, that kind of thing. And you're the secret, and you try to keep it from the public's eye, and do these secret missions. Back in the early 60s, you know, America's getting invaded by these aliens, and it's a tactical squad-based shooter where you control your guys on these different areas, college campuses, blown up city streets. These aliens have, you know, landed and taken over these whole areas around the country, and you have a central base you work out of, and you just control your guys. You go from area to area. And there's parts of it that are fairly linear, but there's also some semi-open world parts where you can pick and choose the path you want to take. And there's special ways of leveling up that you have to pick and choose, and use different gimmicks like holograms. You have these abilities where you can use some of their alien powers against them, like you can actually levitate some of the enemies, and then while you're levitating them, have all your guys train their gunfire on them, take them out. It's very unique. I cannot rave enough about this. A very cool game, wonderful graphics. 2K Marin Games did it. This was unfortunately their last game, as the game didn't sell real well. Many people love the other XCOM games, but I think the graphics, frankly, blow away the other XCOM, Enemy Unknown, and the other games. As you're down and kind of close, it's a third-person shooter, so instead of looking down with a little isometric deal controlling your guys, you're kind of down in the battlefield. Up close and personal with the aliens, and it's just incredible. Wonderful colors, great art direction, wonderful music, a surprising gem. I would highly recommend XCOM: The Bureau Declassified. Incredible game. In fact, I need to get back to this game. I want to play it again. After looking at it, I'm getting all worked up again. Far Cry 4, I'll put that over there. And then getting down, we're getting into the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Now, I don't have an Xbox One, at least not yet, but I do have a PS4 that I got, you know, at launch day, and I have a few games for that, which are also on the Xbox One, and some of them are even on the PC. I'd highly recommend these. These are the final 4 games of the 25 favorites of the 3 generations. This game took me by surprise, but considering how wonderful the last one was, I'm not too surprised. Sniper Elite 3. I did a review of this and some other gameplay videos earlier in the year. I went ahead and pre-ordered it. I was hoping, let's say, if I just hope it's half as good as Sniper Elite V2. And man, is it. Even larger areas with bigger open worlds, more options in the way you can play it, more stealthily, or you can play it as more of an action shooter if you want. Although you won't last long. You want to try to use stealth as long as you can, but the death cam gimmick of the bullet traversing large areas in slow motion, and it shows like an x-ray vision of it going through the skull or the guy's pelvic bones or whatever it is. It's just brutal. I had so much fun, and some of the people that watched my early review and gameplay videos saw that I was having a ball with this. I love this game. In fact, I saw there's some new DLC for this for the PS4. I'm going to download real soon and get all of them, because I think the world of it. I would highly recommend this. If you don't have a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, do yourself a favor and at least get the Sniper Elite V2, because it's almost as good. Sniper Elite V2 is a little bit more difficult, I think, because it's linear and some parts of it are just tougher than a cheap steak. But Sniper Elite 3 is a really cool game. Each level is massive and long. There's not as many levels as some games, but there's such huge areas and so many ways you can play it. It really promotes replayability. You want to really, have a treat for a shooter, especially a third-person shooter. You can't beat this. It looks fantastic and plays fantastic on the new-gen consoles, and it's Sniper Elite 3. Now, this is a game from 2013. that was my game of the year, along with Grand Theft Auto 5 of 2013. But this new definitive edition, it's 60 frames a second on the PlayStation 4 and in 1080p graphics. Looks and plays absolutely amazing. I've only played the first level of this. I want to play this spring when I got some downtime and replay it again. It's one of the few games that I can actually see myself sitting through and replaying it all the way to the end again, is this wonderful Tomb Raider. One of the finest action platformer shooter games I've ever played, with a lot of really new mechanics. I love most of the Tomb Raiders. I had mixed feelings about some of the early PS1 ones, but I like a lot, especially the Crystal Dynamics ones on the PlayStation 3, like Underworld. I think the World of and Legend on the original Xbox are fantastic. But this kind of Tomb Raider reboot is an epic game that is an absolute must-play game. You cannot believe the graphics, and wonderful verticality, huge semi-open world areas where you can attack and approach any way you want, and an intense story, wonderful cutscenes, very immersive, kind of like a Raiders of the Lost Ark deal. It's very similar to Uncharted, which I like as well. Grand Theft Auto 5, I just played this 2 nights ago. Again, I haven't gone through and really done too many of the actual missions yet, because I want to wait until I'm done with Far Cry 4, and then I'll sit down and play it from beginning all the way to the end and then refine all the collectibles. But I got over 100 hours in the 2013 Xbox 360 version of this. I love this game so much. Grand Theft Auto 5 with this new FPS mode, first-person view, many more cars, pedestrians. The world is rich with much more detail. Of all of the remastered games, none of them are as polished as what they did with this one. Worth every damn penny. An incredible game. I can't rave enough about Grand Theft Auto 5. If you just want a wonderful sandbox game you can play any damn way you want, you can't beat Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I don't have GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas in this list, and any one of those could have made, especially Vice City would be my close second to this. But of all the games that I've played in the series, this one I've put the most hours in and can genuinely see myself replaying it more than any other one. Now recently I've been putting up over 30 hours into San Andreas on the Xbox Live Arcade, the new HD version of it, and it's amazing. But frankly, this is like one-stop shopping. I mean, this would literally make my top 10 list of all time as the wonderful GTA 5. Highly recommended. If you have an Xbox 360 or PS3, at least play it on that. But if you got one of the next-gen consoles, you've got to get this game. It's amazing. My favorite game of all the latest, new gen for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and many people already see this coming, is Wolfenstein: The New Order by Machine Games, an offshoot of Starbreeze Studios. Absolutely a fantastic game. I did a review of this earlier this year. I can't rave enough about this. You can get the game dirt cheap now. I paid, $60 for it, whatever one knew. So many ways you can play the game, level up your character. You pick the skill sets that you like based on the way that you want to play the game. A really dark game and a very dark story, but a believable story. Characters you can really, empathize with and get into. And I got to play this game again, right from the beginning all the way through. And I might even change the difficulty level and take it up a notch. The game is hard, even on the default setting. But if you slow down and think about each level and how to approach each thing, there's many ways you can play it. A fantastic game. Really cool, well-hidden collectibles, hidden areas. Many ways to play and experience the game. This is my game of the year for 2014. An absolute masterpiece, a gem. And I only hope to God they make a sequel to this. And it also has the Doom beta for the upcoming Doom, which I think is being done by Machine Games and or id Software. I'm not sure, but highly recommended. So anyway, that's my top 25 games of the last 3 generations. It was really hard to whittle these down. I try to do the best I can. I'll have other kind of categories coming up that I'll be doing of my favorite FPS games and driving games and things like that. But I wanted to get these to you. I've had so many friends that have asked me, what are your favorite top 10 games, Dean, or top 20 games? And I couldn't get it down to 20, so I did 25. So I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful New Year's and Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas yet. It's going to be Christmas next week. As of filming this, I'm filming it on a Thursday before Christmas. But have a Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. I hope your New Year's resolutions come true. It's been a great year. We have many more wonderful games coming in 2015, and I'm excited to hear about your pickups and to see what you're looking forward to next year in the way of pre-orders and games and pickups for your collection. So thanks for watching and enjoy your games.